As it happens, the war criminal is in the building. In fact, he's right behind me. Here he is, Tony Blair, otherwise known as Neil Clark.
Thank you, George, for that very warm and friendly introduction. I want to talk. I'm here tonight, really, to make the case for imperialism. Imperialism's on trial. Greg, who we met when I was bringing peace to Northern Ireland, remember that? He invited me here very kindly. I'm taking a cut in my usual fee to just 250k tonight to be here. Imperialism. And I've been listening to the other speakers, and I listened to last night, and it's negative, all negative, as if imperialism is a bad thing. Not one speaker has mentioned the positives. Not one speaker has mentioned the rise in profits of companies like Halliburton, Bechtel, reconstruction companies. Nobody's mentioned it. It's all negative. I don't prefer not to use the word, imperialism. I prefer to refer to it as humanitarian interventionism. Because for me, it's about liberation and it's about human rights. I was in Riyadh at the weekend talking to my friend King Salman, and we were discussing the human rights agenda and how good it's been, what we've been doing in the Middle East. And, let's talk about Iraq. Let's talk about it, let's talk. Okay? Let's talk about Iraq. I'm happy to talk about Iraq. Because what we did there was a liberation. It's all right, Patrick, negatively talking about, what's going on there. If people like Patrick had been in my position, or people like, George Galloway, where would we be today? I'll tell you where we'd be. Saddam Hussein would still be in power with his weapons of mass destruction, 45 minutes away from being launched. That's where he'd be, in one of his palaces. The code name for our operation in Iraq was Operation Iraqi Liberation. OIL. What could be clearer? What could be plainer? Operation Iraqi Liberation. It was about that. And it brings me on to WikiLeaks now, okay? I've got no objection to leaks. Sainsbury's leaks, Waitrose leaks, Tesco's leaks, even Morrison's leaks, okay? That's fine. WikiLeaks, no. Because what WikiLeaks has done, it makes it much harder for people like me, politicians like me, to take us into these humanitarian interventions, which are about liberating countries like Iraq, like Libya, from their assets. Okay? Because we can run them better. We can, people like me, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, big firms like this, we can run those assets better. It's making the job harder. People like Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. I haven't got all night to talk about how, the objections I have to WikiLeaks. You could only, how many people, for example, know WikiLeaks is anti-Semitic? Did you know that? Think about it. Think about the word WikiLeaks. There's an I, okay? There's an S. There's an A. There's an E. And there's an L. But there's no R. You can't spell the full name Israel in that acronym of WikiLeaks. Doesn't that tell you something about it? Isn't that sinister? So, on every level, WikiLeaks really are bad. And Julian Assange, Julian Assange has what he's done is really quite unforgivable, because he's made it. Look how difficult it was for my friend David Cameron. I was on the phone to him that week trying to get us involved in a major war in Syria, and the Parliament voted against it. That's part of the problem has been WikiLeaks has been exposing what they call war crimes, but what we do for humanitarian purposes in other countries. It's made it much harder for people like me to operate. So when Gregory comes tonight and talks about, do you find imperialism guilty or not guilty, I very much hope you bear in mind my words and, vote not guilty, because we have, if you look around the Middle East, look at the state it's in today. I've been the Middle East peace envoy. Just look at it. It's in total pieces, isn't it? Libya, look at Libya. We've got slave markets back. That's got to be a positive there. We've got Iraq. We've got, split into various different parts of the country, Syria. It's all been a great success. And that's why, Patrick with his, it's a disaster. Iraq is a disaster. In what way is it a disaster? Saddam Hussein's gone. That's got to be a good thing. So please, bear in mind the argument for imperialism. I think it's a strong one, and I very much hope that you will vote in favour of imperialism later. Now, I've also asked a few friends of mine, not just me, to come along tonight, to give their kind of take on imperialism and Julian Assange. They're pretty people you recognise, and they'll be very quickly stating their opinions on where they stand on this. I very much hope they'll be taking my position and not the position of those characters back there. So we know the first person to come along, I think you'll know him. He's a good friend of mine. I want you to give him a good, warm welcome here. Hello. Hello. My name is Michael Gove, and I'm standing for the Tory leadership to be the next Prime Minister. Now, I was asked on television, now, I'll be frank with you, I made a mistake. 20 years ago, I took cocaine. It wasn't a habit. I only took it 12 times. And I deeply, 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 deeply regret taking cocaine. Now, Julian Assange, he's made a mistake too, hasn't he? A big mistake. But I feel because I made a mistake, and I want to start again, I think we should allow him to start again. So, my position on Julian Assange is this. I do not think it's right that he should be facing 175 years in jail in the US. I believe, and I'm a compassionate conservative, that 100 years would be more than enough. I think that'd be fine. And then he can come out and then put his life to good use, as I've done. So I would actually be quite compassionate about Julian. And I just want to say one more thing. You may have seen people tweeting a clip of a couple of my colleagues, Ken Clarke and Malcolm Rifkind, off camera, talking about what would happen if I became Prime Minister. And Ken Clarke says, if Michael, God help us, if he becomes Prime Minister, we'd be at war with 3 countries at the same time. That's extremely unfair, and I was very upset when I saw Ken say that. It would be at least 4. Syria, Iran, Venezuela, and Russia. So vote for me for Prime Minister, and Julian Assange will only get 100 years in jail. And now, in the interests of balance, we also have another candidate. Brexitus Invictus. Julian Assange, what do I think of Julian Assange? Well, I think I can't place him at Eton. I couldn't place him. Good chap, pretty good chap. I don't really know too much about him. No deal. Yes, get him out without a deal. That's fine. No deal, and I think that's pretty clear. My policy is on Julian Assange, don't you? Very clear. Yes, very good. Julian Assange, WikiLeaks, never heard of them. Bloody idiot. Bloody idiot. Sorry, that was Prince Charles. Julian Assange, WikiLeaks. Yeah. I mean, I've been asked by a couple of people about whether I would give a royal pardon to him when I become the king. Well, I wouldn't rule that out, but the way Mums is going, I don't think we'll be talking about another 20 years, so perhaps that's not very helpful. Good on him. Oh. That went off. Well, he was good. Well, obviously, this just broke, but this is Kim Jong-un, and we have to be honest. If Julian Assange, let's face it, if he was in Korea, if he was doing the same thing, if he'd been doing the same thing in North Korea, then obviously he would have. We've been reading in the newspapers that he would be executed, without a doubt, and then 3 years later he'd be turning up in the Olympic Games for them. Now, before I leave, just one point. Have we done all of them? Yeah, I do read that a lot of the Assange supporters, fantastic stuff going on there by people like Charlotte and here and other people on Twitter and online, building up support for this campaign. It's so important. But, you know, a couple of comments I've seen, people talking about lizards and, you know, it's a kind of getting into that territory that basically this is a lizard conspiracy against Julian. It's all about the Illuminati and that kind of stuff. I don't think that really helps the cause, to put it mildly, because people can slander us on that. So anyway, here's the final word about Julian Assange from Mike Pompeo. So, thank you very much, everybody. Hope you enjoyed that. And let's get free Julian Assange. Thanks.